The Ohio River was more than just a body of water. It was the lifeblood of the Ohio Territory, a vital artery connecting Kentucky and what would one day become Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio. In the 18th and 19th centuries, this river carried settlers, goods, and dreams through the heart of a new frontier. However, the river and its surrounding lands became the setting for some of history's darkest and most mysterious tales. From the limestone hideouts of river pirates in Cave-in Rock, Illinois, to the ghostly wreckage of the Moselle near Cincinnati, the Ohio River was as much a highway of opportunity as it was a stage for danger and despair. The lands it touched, rich with Native American history, pioneer struggles, and steamboat lore, are filled with stories that have endured the test of time. Today, we'll explore the legends and mysteries of the Ohio Territory and its river, uncovering tales of pirates and ghost ships that continue to haunt its waters. The Pirates of the Ohio River. Let's begin with one of the Ohio River's most feared inhabitants, Samuel Mason. Born in 1739 in Virginia to a family of English descent, Mason didn't start out as a criminal. In fact, during the Revolutionary War, he served as a captain in the Virginia militia, defending settlers at Fort Henry with bravery and skill. But after the war, something changed. Mason was a towering man for his time, standing 6 feet 3 inches tall and weighing around 200 pounds. With his broad shoulders and commanding presence, Mason was the type of leader whose very appearance demanded respect and instilled fear. After the war, Mason moved to Red Banks, now Henderson, Kentucky, where he made a name for himself. But it wasn't the reputation of a soldier, it was that of a pirate. By the 1790s, Mason had crossed over to the dark side, turning the Ohio River into his hunting ground. He set up his base at Cave-in Rock, a massive limestone cave perched on the Illinois side of the Ohio River. With its towering cliffs and hidden entrances, the cave was a natural fortress, perfect for Mason and his gang. Using his commanding voice and manipulative charm, Mason lured unsuspecting travelers into the cave with promises of safety. Once inside, they were ambushed, their goods stolen, and, in many cases, their lives taken to ensure there were no witnesses. Mason's reign of terror on the Ohio River was infamous, and his gang grew bold enough to target traders, settlers, and even passing boats. His notoriety brought him into contact with the Harpe brothers, America's first serial killers. Known for their shocking brutality, the Harpes were too violent even for Mason. After an uneasy alliance, Mason drove them out of Cave-in Rock, unwilling to let their bloodlust overshadow his own calculated operations. But their presence added to the fear surrounding the Ohio River. It became a place where travelers knew they could lose not just their possessions, but their lives. As law enforcement began to crack down on river piracy, Mason fled south to the Mississippi River. There, his attacks continued, but his luck eventually ran out. Captured by Spanish authorities, Mason attempted to escape, but was killed in the process. His head was severed and displayed to claim the bounty on his capture, a grim end to one of the most feared pirates of the Ohio River. But even in death, Mason left behind mysteries. His treasure, accumulated over years of raids, was never found. Could it still be hidden along the banks of the Ohio River, buried deep in the wilderness surrounding Cave-in Rock? Today, Cave-in Rock has transformed from a pirate's lair to a state park in Illinois, where visitors can step into the same cavern that once echoed with Mason's booming commands and the desperate cries of his victims. Historians continue to research Mason's life, uncovering more about his exploits and the shadow he cast over the region. While the treasure Mason allegedly hoarded has never been recovered, modern treasure hunters still explore the area, hoping to uncover a piece of the dark legacy left behind by this towering, ruthless figure of the frontier. Ghost ships and tragedy on the Ohio River. The Ohio River holds more than the tales of lost treasures. It holds ghosts. For years, travelers have reported phantom boats gliding silently across the water. Their lanterns flicker in the dark, but no crew is ever seen. Are these spectral vessels carrying the spirits of those who met tragic ends on the river? One such tragedy remains among the most haunting in the river's history. On April 25, 1838, the Moselle, a steamboat celebrated for its speed and luxury, departed Cincinnati on what was intended to be another record-setting journey to St. Louis. Built just months earlier, the Moselle was hailed as the finest vessel on the Ohio River, a marvel of engineering and elegance. Known for her unmatched speed, she had quickly earned a reputation as the swiftest steamboat in America. Under the ambitious command of Captain Isaac Perrin, the Moselle regularly completed voyages in record time, including a final trip from St. Louis to Cincinnati in just 2 days and 16 hours. A feat that drew both admiration and fierce competition. On that fateful afternoon, the Moselle carried nearly 300 passengers. Families seeking new opportunities, traders transporting goods, and German emigrants boarding with their possessions all crowded aboard. The weather was pleasant, and excitement was high as the steamboat set off. Many passengers gathered on the upper deck, enjoying the spring breeze and anticipating the smooth journey ahead. But ambition turned fatal. Captain Perrin, eager to solidify the Moselle's reputation as the fastest steamboat on the river, was determined to outpace the Ben Franklin, a rival vessel that had departed shortly before. This race, however, would come at a terrible cost. An experienced engineer aboard noticed the boilers had been pushed to dangerous pressure levels. Alarmed, one passenger disembarked at an earlier stop, protesting the reckless management. His decision likely saved his life. As the Moselle pulled away from the shore after taking on additional passengers, disaster struck. All 4 boilers exploded simultaneously with a force described as unprecedented, likened to the detonation of a gunpowder mine. The front half of the steamboat was obliterated, its timbers twisted and splintered as if struck by lightning. Fragments of the boilers and human remains were hurled hundreds of yards, reaching both the Ohio and Kentucky shores. Witnesses on land, who had been cheering the steamboat's departure moments earlier, were now met with a scene of unspeakable horror. The explosion killed Captain Perrin instantly. Standing above the boiler at the time of the blast, he was thrown high onto the riverbank, his body shattered. Other passengers suffered similar fates. One was thrown with such force that his remains penetrated the roof of a nearby house. Survivors described the river littered with debris, baggage, and bodies. The Moselle drifted about 100 yards downstream before sinking, leaving only the upper cabin above water. Those who weren't killed in the initial blast were left to fight for their lives in the river's strong currents. An eyewitness later recounted seeing 60 to 70 passengers struggling in the water at once, but fewer than a dozen made it to shore. The death toll was staggering. Of the estimated 280 to 300 people aboard, at least 81 were confirmed dead, 55 were reported missing, and dozens more were badly injured. Many of the victims were immigrants whose names were never recorded, adding to the tragedy's anonymity. Entire families were wiped out in an instant, husbands and wives, parents and children torn apart. The human stories of the Moselle disaster were as heartbreaking as the physical destruction. A grieving father sat on the riverbank, his wounded child on one side, his dead daughter on the other, and his dying wife at his feet. A mother, saved alongside her infant, fainted when reunited with her child. One man survived with his son, but lost his wife and 5 other children. Another man, sobbing uncontrollably, had lost his entire family of 9. Survivors were left wandering the wreckage, crying out for missing loved ones amidst the carnage. The Moselle's fame as a symbol of progress and speed had turned into a cautionary tale of recklessness and ambition. Public outrage erupted as news of the tragedy spread, prompting widespread calls for reform. A public meeting in Cincinnati condemned the careless practices of steamboat operators and urged Congress to address the growing number of similar disasters. The Moselle became a grim catalyst for change, leading to the passage of the Steamboat Act of 1838. Today, the wreck of the Moselle remains unrecovered, its story buried beneath the depths of the Ohio River. Along with the passengers' most precious belongings, gold coins, jewelry, family heirlooms, and important documents, the wreckage serves as a poignant and haunting reminder of the dangers that came with progress. Though the Moselle's remains may never be found, its tragic tale endures as one of the darkest chapters in the history of the Ohio River. The Ohio Territory was a land of ambition, resilience, and uncharted potential. The Ohio River bound this vast region together, connecting the people and stories of Kentucky, Illinois, Ohio, and Indiana. It served as both a lifeline and a witness to the struggles and triumphs of those who came before us. From the ruthless piracy in Cave-In Rock and the ghostly tragedies like the Moselle Steamboat Explosion, these tales remind us of the rich and complicated history that shaped this region. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the stories of the Ohio River and its surrounding lands. If you enjoyed these tales, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. And if your hometown has its own legends or mysteries, I'd love to hear them. Until next time, happy hunting.